Hey, welcome back to the Hoosier Garage. It's another fine Saturday. It's a little cool today, but we'll work through it. Actually, it works good when you're welding because you put some extra clothes on, you don't get hot. So, we're doing a lot of the same stuff on this side we did on the other side. We're adding a new lip here, a lip here, so that they sandwich together. And I'm getting that tacked in. I went ahead and cleaned up a little bit more of this from where it had the old welds on it that I put on, and cleaned the flange up. And I cleaned up the other side. We'll show you that in a little bit. All the welds from when I put the patch panels in. Looks really good. I'm really happy with that. And I'll probably just have to go through and touch up some pinholes and anything like that that have developed from butt welding it. So what I'm going to do here, get this finished up, get it all welded in, and probably smooth it down, make my other lip. And I'm going to put another lip in here. I think it'll improve it. I had it come out too far and it obstructed the outside panel. So I'm going to put a little piece of lip in there. And hopefully by the end of the day, it's mid-afternoon, hopefully by, I'll just say this evening, we can get at least one of the panels mounted up and tacked. And hopefully maybe even glued up in there here. We'll do the glue thing. So stay tuned. Alright, I think it's about time we turn the camera on. You just saw us about, I would guess about 5 hours ago, and I've just been plowing through all this. We got this piece in, we got the piece in under it here, which I have tape in here just to keep debris from going down in the gap. But it's all spot welded, pretty much ready to go there. We can clean that up later, it's not crucial right now. I cleaned all the old sealant out of here, sealed inside of it, and then we left this bare. We'll probably put our panel bond here and use that as another point of contact, and it'll make it nice and solid too. Here's our piece here that we added in, and I've left this bare. All this fresh metal here is bare because that's the panel bond needs clean metal, bare metal to attach to. I made a new lip here because I was not happy with the way the old one was cleaning up. It was very black with the oxidation it set in. So I just chopped it off and put a new lip on, welded it on. So pretty solid there. Oh, got the rest of the flange off and sealed this in. Okay. Over here, we cleaned up all our welds, put our sealant on there. Same thing here. We have bare metal from here back. And we might spot weld it there since that's some old metal. We did the same thing here, clean these up, and then painted inside of it. If any case you have these holes, you can always go from the inside with that little tube, the straw. So it's not terribly crucial there, just as long as we clean it up best we can, got all the debris out of it. So we're good on that. Also ran a tack weld here, or a spot weld, and it kept that from moving around. Same thing on that side. So next thing I'm going to do is we'll start here. It's so close to your work area. All right, so I'm going to take the panel, and I already got all these holes drilled in here, so I am going to probably establish position on here, and then we'll run a couple screws in here. This will probably end up getting welded. Not my favorite spot, but that's the order of the day here. On this side, this panel will need trim down quite a bit. I think it comes down to about here, so we're going to trim this much out, and we're going to trim a little bit of the bottom off down here so that it all fits in. We'll do the same thing where we will establish some screw holes here, and then we will get it to where we can start managing what we're going to do with it. And again, I'll probably panel bond these bare metal areas here, this, the underside, and these upright. All right, so we're gonna score this to get a good indication of where we need to cut the piece that comes out. I think it comes out to about there, just looking at it here. But reposition. If you saw episode 1, you'll see that we have our flanges here, and then we started getting down here. And because of the break, this hard body line right here, we don't want to flange into it. It'll mess it all up and it'll give you too much to have to rework later. So we're going to butt weld this panel to that panel right here to the corner, and from the corner to about an inch this way. So right here, until we start from the corner and get to the inch, and then down across the body line until it gets flat again, which is where our cut is to show the beginning of the flange here. That's where that will be cut, okay? Now, in order to get the excess here cut off of this piece, I'm just going to make a little scribe here that shows where my flange starts, okay? And I'll show you this up close here in a second. Then down at the bottom, I'm just going to make a real light scribe there. And then if I keep that straight all the way down, when I take the panel back off, it'll show where the flange starts. Now I won't cut it off there, obviously. I'll give it a 1/2 inch, because these flanges that you make are a 1/2 inch. So I'll go a 1/2 inch beyond that, and that'll be my mark. And then I can cut a little extra, or I shouldn't say extra, I'll cut it conservatively to where I can just shave it down gradually to fit in the flange. And I'll show you that if you're not sure what I'm talking about there. But up close, again, here's the flange where it stops. If we move this old insulation, you can see the flange goes down through here, and it stops right there, and we cut it just so it'll have an easy transition to this piece. And then it comes down across this body line, and then here the flange starts again. So this part here, and this part all together here will weld in flush, butt weld. And then this here and this here will flange weld. Now on the outside, we can't see what's going on that back side of that panel. I do have this marked here. This is where that flange starts here, but it's just a mystery where it starts there. It's roughly a 1/2 inch this way, and so, you know, roughly about right there. So all this will get cut off, okay? But with me making that real light score down through about to there, and then we run it on the way down, we'll check it again and make sure. We'll measure off of this down through here and measure it off of this up to here, and if it looks like it's gonna fit or make a good cut, then we'll cut it there. If it seems like something's off, then we'll measure again and maybe just cut it off very conservatively and just gradually whittle it back. Now on the passenger side, we have kind of a similar situation. It's a bit more, I guess you could say, easier to control. And when I say that, I pretty much mean you can push the panel up against the structure to where it's nice and flush against this piece here. And we'll take our scoring tool and run it right up against where we cut it off of the sheet metal that goes on the outside, where that corner is. Go as far as we can. Score that. Now it comes all the way down to here where your doors bolt on. So we'll kind of have to do the same thing there. We'll have to almost guess where it goes down, but we'll not cut off too much to where we end up messing ourselves up. Another thing I want to show you before I go taking these panels back off is this flange seam where we had to cut it off before. There's the original one where it wraps around like that. When you get below that, you get into this. And this is more how you get your panels from the aftermarket. I did go ahead and clamp these to where it brings everything as tight as it can, so that when you see it on the outside, you don't have these massive gaps. You do see a little bit of light through it, but you probably would have seen it through here too when it was new. I'm actually surprised how well that these did clamp tight. So when you get to about there, we're going to keep an eye on it, and we'll probably move some clamps around. But it's in a really good spot. And a lot of that will come together as we have to make relief cuts for this all to fit in, like take this piece in so that it goes in there. Same thing over there, so you eliminate your gaps. You just want to make sure you have clamps everywhere that you think that they'll help you. All right, so we have cut the driver's side of the panel off, and when I talked about cutting it conservatively, I really meant that. Right here especially, because you're coming down off of a very straight edge that I made, and even on that, as I got down here, I tapered away from it so that just in case I made some kind of a error, that it would allow me enough material to possibly get back in the game. All right, so when it came to down here, I did have a mark here, and I just leveled it off because I knew it was level with this body line. But in reality, it's, you know, it was up here, and I just cut way below it, knowing that that'll give me extra material to work with in case, again, I made an error. So here's what the panel looks like as of now. And you can see, now this will have a lap on it, right? And the lap will have to fit inside that flange. So our cutting a little conservative really helped us out. All we have to do is just gradually take it back until it pops down in there, okay? Now right here is where we'll have to be very careful. See, I was very, very conservative on this. There's a good inch there, maybe even an inch and a quarter if you look at it flat. So what we'll do is we'll just work on one thing at a time, and that is get this side to where it fits down in that flange, and then we'll cut the corner off up here and make sure that it fits. And as you see, our marks here kind of show where that is, but we'll make sure exactly where it is first before we cut this little rectangle out. Then we'll work our way down here, okay? Okay, so we're gradually going to work on this until it gets where it needs to be, but we've started it right here. Now remember, this will cut here and eventually cut there. So as long as it looks like it'll fall right into that spot, which it will, then we're good. We'll just worry about this later because it is scribed from the back side. Remember that? When we jumped inside the van and made that scribe, so that's a good to go measurement or a cut that we'll make. But here, we'll just keep working that down a little bit at a time until it just clicks right in that spot. All right, if you look, as I've moved down through here, the panel has been kind of forced away from me. I know I'm close, but I don't want to just guess at it. And that's because of this right here. You can tell that the panel is hitting that flange. And so this is a good chance to make a relief cut because this top piece will fit in on top of there. This is just how it'll go. Okay, so we'll bend that back and you'll see how it goes. Now with this cut and it bent back, it allows you to push it in further. Now, a lot of it's contingent on how it fits in the wheel well, so if we squeeze it in there tight like it's supposed to be, then it fits down there much tighter. Alright, so we went ahead and made our cut to square it up at the bottom here. And if you push it in, the body line, which is, in my opinion, the most important thing because it's hard to make that work, flows down through here and goes in that, okay? So if you push it back and you have everything flush up through here, it sets right in there in line with it. Wipe that a little bit. Okay. So you see we have a little bit on this part that's hanging out further. So I'm okay with that. We can work with that. It's smaller than I thought it would be. Now our flange, how it fits, is pretty good. I might take just a little bit more off down here. And then similar to what we're going to have to do here is cut this notch out. We'll do the same thing right here. See how that notch is here? And we'll do the same thing and just cut it and then butt weld this corner in and then the rest of it will lap right over top of that. So we've done a bunch of trimming. Most of it comprises of where it meets into the flange and falls flush. And we trimmed this to fit so that the butt weld will work. And it might need a little bit more work. I'll tell you what we'll have to do here in a second. And down here, it's a little tight because of the wheel well sits down, so I might have to reposition the screws and then the clamp. Then this will set in flush because it was a second ago, and then this will sit down in there and butt weld as well. Oh, what we'll have to do is when I take this panel back off, I'm going to go ahead and shave the paint off of this side of the flange and off of the back side of this panel. It'll thin it out a little bit more so that this will set even more flush, because the paint from this and then the paint from that together is going to make it stand out just enough. I think that'll give you problems. Now, it feels pretty good here, and of course we have our little issue there that we're going to have to work on, but it looks like it'll fit in pretty good there. So as we go to the other side, I'll probably prep it up and have it ready to just do some fine trimming, some touch up on it, and then I'll go in for the night. It's getting a little late. I've been on this for about 12 hours today, so we'll just stretch it out a little bit. All right, so we're back on another day working on the van and the whole quarter panel project. So you just saw we did all the cleaning up and roughing it in, and I just spent probably the past 2 hours making a bare surface here, checking everything over again, making sure that the top edge doesn't overlap our flange that we made. And I've also been preparing the panels. Now you kind of see at the bottom of your screen there the edge of one of the panels that's sitting right there. The driver's side is this one right here. And I went through and kind of crisped it off a little bit, make sure it fit in that flange. And then right here, I did the same thing here, get all the roughness and paint off of it. And I'm going to wipe that down again before I put it on. Also, the area where it mounts up to the floor right here, cleared that, so it's bare, clean, bare steel. And the same thing inside the wheel lip right here. And that's on both panels. That'll help it on a panel bond at least. Here is the panel bond in the gun. So basically, if I take this out, it is a cartridge that you buy, and it's a 3M product. A lot of body shops use it, a lot of newer car panels are used with it. So you see one side's bigger than the other one, and this gun is designed just for that. So you'll fit it in there, and it has a kind of a edge on it here. You don't want it on top of the edge, you want it inside there like that. Clicks in there, and it's like a regular caulking gun. And they tell you to take this cap off right here, unscrews, and then you have this kind of like this tip right here, and I believe you are to remove that. They said you throw that away, but you keep this cap. Now I think you could probably, I would imagine you can actually hold on to that if you keep it clean, and you could re-plug it if you don't use the whole cartridge. I only have one cartridge. I think that'll get us what we need, and then we'll plug it off and make sure that it all, hopefully we can seal it up and use it for something else down the road. And what you also need, which I got within the kit, see this, it's a special nozzle you put on there. And it pretty much has a, kind of looks like a maze inside of it to allow the two epoxies to mix together. So by the time it gets out of that tip, it's all thoroughly mixed and pretty much ready to go. And I think it pretty much is. I think you take, yeah, yep. You heard me say I think a lot, because you gotta think. You take your cap that was on here, bring it down over your tip, tighten it down, and here's the whole assembly. Ready to go. And on the instruction it tells you to extract. Yeah, so you remove the threaded retaining collar and red plug, which you saw me do, from the end of the cartridge. You discard the plug but save the retaining collar. Now I'm just going to keep that plug just in case we don't use the whole thing. I think you might need that. Equalize the cartridge, so you'll extrude a small amount of adhesive until both A and B parts are present at the outlet of the cartridge which is out in here, and attach the correct mixing nozzle. So we want to probably take this back off and just make sure that both of them are extruding properly. And we'll just get a piece of cardboard or something to make sure it comes out on that. Or you can kind of see it through there, right? I give it a little bit of a push. I believe the bigger side is going to give you a little bit more. So it looks like both of them are coming out. This black one more so due to its size. So you dispense a 1 to 2 inch, which is in some countries 25 to 50 millimeter line of adhesive through the mixing nozzle and discard. And then we have it goes into the working time of how long. So we will spit a little bit of this out. And yeah, I think the tip is already open. It's not one that you have to cut, kind of like a caulking gun or anything. So let's see what we got. Alright, so I just have the bag that the epoxy came out of. And you can see it. Make sure it's on there tight. Starts to extrude through. This is the yellow stuff, I'm pretty sure. Could be mistaken. Right there. Then you release it to make sure you're not putting out while you lay it down. This stuff is kind of sticky, but not really bad. It's kind of loose at the same time. Like I haven't dripped any yet, but you can tell if you lay it on too heavy, it probably will. But it's fairly manageable. I just kind of wiggle it around once I put it on there, and it kind of covers the area as it comes out kind of messy in a way. Try to manage it and spread it out. Not too difficult. You definitely have to work within its time frame. You can't really rush it. I try to move ahead quicker because I am somewhat impatient, but it kind of holds you back a little bit, which is fine. Okay, so we've got everything on this side covered. We'll release our gun for now. Alrighty, now this is the first time I've done panel bond, and I'll have to say I feel pretty good about it. There are some challenges to it. I tried to have enough clamps, although I kind of in the back of my head knew I didn't, but I think we'll make it work. We have them in, let's say, the right places. That could be a lot of the thing. And like I showed you, we have it all on the wheel arch, and then on the side of the floor, the lip. Same thing on the other side. We also have it against the bracing right here, so it's against that, and that's both sides. Things that you're kind of watching for without having extra clamps is how it fits here. Now I'm gonna say with the glue holding it here, this is probably the most critical place to have it in line, because there is a little in and out on it, and that is thick enough it'll make any little difference. It doesn't fit up against it flush without it going all the way in, so you have to make sure that you are flush with, even though there's welds here, see that? So we're flush there. Now up here it fills out a little bit and it goes in a little too far, but we're good there. So I think when it gets down to welding this flange, which is on the inside here, you know, putting our tacks inside here, we'll move those clamps accordingly and then try to get everything flush here and there. Another thing is we have it bonded here, and I might even let this clamp off just a little bit so it'll come out some. But this needs to go in and that needs to come out, and we'll have to try to work this butt weld in, which will have to go in quite a bit, and then get our lap weld to work here. But again, this is only screwed at the moment, so if this all dries good you take these screws out, you can lift it out a little bit and even work on it. One thing I did forget to do, even after all my pondering, was I forgot to drill the holes here. But I can do that when I lift it out just a little bit and zap them in there then. So on that side, there's one little adjustment I'm going to make. And again, this has a 4-hour clamp time. So we're only about 40 minutes into it. Right here, where this will be a butt weld here against this corner. It is gonna need a little bit of relief here. It's pushed up against it and almost over it here. See, it won't move in, but I don't want to force it with this clamp holding it. Now I could probably let that clamp off a little bit and it'll give me that. I might adjust that one a little bit before it gets too deep into it. It's getting a little tacky. See, I can touch it and it doesn't stick. And like I said, it's about 40 minutes, 45 at the most. And up here, this should move a little bit. So when it's ready, you should be able to push it in. And at the bottom where it sinks in, I can kind of push it outward from the inside. So up inside here. So that's my assessment of it right now. I'm gonna try and make these little adjustments and see if I can do it without messing anything up. I have this clamp here to hold it into place, just like on the other side, to help solidify it against this, which I said there's a big gap in there, so we kind of filled it up with it to make up the difference. I can't really explain it. I went off the factory one, the lip, and if you look at it, we're nice and straight here and we're not bubbling out any. So I don't know if that's just something that maybe they had a lot of seam sealer in there with the welds. I can't really remember how we did that, but anyways, we'll move on. All right, so about 3 o'clock, 3:15, somewhere in there today is when I initially put the adhesive on there for the panel bond and hung the panel. Started getting it clamped down within 20 minutes after that. Right now it's about 11:45, 12 o'clock. So it's been on there for several hours. Seems pretty solid throughout. I have a couple clamps on this side, a couple clamps on that side, just holding up where anything that's got some resistance that wants to spring loose. And then I got some of them just kind of in spots where it's just good to have that pressure on it. So what I'm going to do, we're going to make this a part 2, and the part 3 will show us taking the clamps off and then getting all of this welded up, get this seam welded up, and pretty much the same situation on the opposite side. So it's a big project, this quarter panel thing, no matter how you do it, I think. Especially when you're doing both sides, you're doing the whole thing, and you have a vehicle that's got all this rust in behind it, like the wheel wells and the floors and all that stuff. So, hey, if you like what you see, make sure you subscribe, hit the notification button, the little bell, and you'll get notifications every time we upload. And if you're into this series right now, make sure you do that, because the next one we post is going to be welding this thing up and hopefully not warping any of this. We're going to take our dear sweet time on it. So thanks for visiting the Hoosier Garage. Come back for part 3.